It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's ZiFM Sport on a Tuesday evening. The team is here. Simba, Chris, Sean, our producer, and my name is Barry. On a Tuesday, we have our staple, of course, which is the Formula One report. It's proudly brought to you by Zimoko, and today we're talking about Lewis Hamilton. Now, he is unsure why older drivers have a bee in their bonnet over his success and standing among Formula One's greats. We'll hear the in-studio team's thoughts on those comments by Lewis Hamilton. And do the older drivers really have a bee in their bonnet? On the home front, former FC Platinum and Chippa United coach Norman Mapeza says he made a professional decision not to sign for Chakuma Cha Madzivandila after taking the team for a few training sessions in the past days.
We'll take you around the world in 60, and today we'll start off in Australia, where legendary former Wallabies wing David Campese has taken a swipe at an arrogant New Zealand rugby and believes the All Blacks aura is gone. In news from Serbia, Novak Djokovic says he still has a huge desire and hunger to succeed as he continues to chase Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal at the peak of men's tennis. And in the United Arab Emirates, skipper Virat Kohli praised AB de Villiers' superhuman effort on a sluggish pitch after the South African great hit a match-winning 73 for Royal Challengers Bangalore in the IPL.
We'll take in our Top Hit Tuesday play of the day. Then we dive into the beautiful game where Germany hosts Switzerland tonight amid sharp criticism of the national team's head coach Joachim Yogi Löw, who is still struggling to shake off the aftermath of their 2018 World Cup debacle. In other news, Argentina coach Lionel Scaloni has compared playing football in La Paz to, quote, drowning, as he braces his team for the challenge posed by competing at altitude in tonight's clash in Bolivia. And in an update on the continent, Steve Kompela admits joining a club of Mamelodi Sundowns caliber comes with a lot of expectation, but he believes the real enemy is the success they have built in the last 7 years. Top Hit Tuesday power play. We know David Campese is talking about the aura of the All Blacks having been gone. Well, the aura that is in the house is the artist. Here's Aura featuring on Jax Jones's track. It's called I Miss You.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Why don't you catch us on social media at ZiFM Sport is a big one. You need to follow that and interact with us as a team. But in our individual capacities, we're available at Sean Tafirenyika, at Chris Midzi, at Simba Neuta, that's Simba Fupa Jenna. There's, of course, at Mike Madoda and at Gazaman14 for Alois. And then, of course, there is at Mark Pozzo. I'm on at Barry Menandi. Let's get into it now on the home front. Former FC Platinum and Chippa United coach Norman Mapeza says he made a professional decision not to sign for Chakuma Cha Madzivandila after taking the team for a few training sessions in the past few days. Reports suggested Mapeza was close to joining Chakuma Cha Madzivandila TTM, who brought their Premier Soccer League status from Bidvest Wits. The former Zimbabwe national team coach has revealed he had accepted the job but could not put pen to paper due to differences with the club. He had this to say: "It was just a professional decision. I thought I couldn't build a team under 3 weeks, which was going to compete to my liking. There is nothing much to it. I was just doing an assessment and watched 2 training games. My stay with Chakuma Cha Madzivandila TTM was just for assessment, my brother. There was no football because of COVID-19. Norman Mapeza, Chris, saying that he did it for professional reasons and felt that he couldn't put together a side that he could be proud of And you can sort of understand, can't you?
You can definitely understand. We know Norman Mapeza is a winning coach. We know he likes to have the pieces in order to be a winning coach. He has a particular style. And I think there's a specific way in which he likes to work. So I think he immediately saw that the way he likes to work and the pieces he needs, he wasn't able to get them at TTM. And we've seen it over and over when it comes to, for example, when he was either an SC Platinum or a Chipper. When he sees that a situation is not working, he's one of the honest coaches who's just going to put his hand up and say, look, the situation is not working, and in this case it wasn't going to be working. And I think there was additional pressure because they just bought a franchise. So I think there was pressure to succeed from the onset, and I don't think he wanted to go into the situation knowing, you know what, we might not be able to stay in the Premier League because of the different factors that he mentions there. So yeah, you can understand where he's coming from, and honestly, it's great that he's put his hand up right at the beginning rather than to jump in and later say, oh, it's not working.
Chris pointing out there that he's an honest coach, he's a winning coach, and in truth, that's probably why he's never been fired from a job. In fact, he puts his hand up and says, you know what, guys, I can't work in these conditions. I can't work with this. In truth, TTM could have done a little bit more to retain some of the talent that was at Bidvest Wits, because Bidvest Wits on its own had enough talent to stay in the league. In fact, compete for honours, you'd say.
Yeah, and when you talk about the competing for honours, I think one of the first opportunities that arises is the top 8 competition. So when you've got a coach coming in and you're talking about what they may have outlined in terms of being able to compete for honours, you're pretty much starting from a quarterfinal stage. So you're like, 3 matches or 3 solid results away from a trophy. And that would entice quite a number of good coaches. But when you're talking about good coaches, I think for me, what's actually really impressive about Norman Mapeza, you mentioned there that he's never been fired. He's actually walked away from a lot of situations. I mean, how good or how confident must you be in your own brand that you look at the situation and you keep saying FC Platinum, one of the most comfortable working environments in Zim, use that as a stepping stone to get into the South African Premiership, get to the South African Premiership, help a team that was struggling to survive nearly comfortably. And then when the next one starts to call, which already we've mentioned that has got a top 8 trophy opportunity, you look at that and you actually walk away. Quite a number of managers would have probably just taken the money. So I'm not sure how much of a bailout package he got from FC Platinum, but it's really good to see that he's not only looking out for the needs of the club, but also protecting his own personal brand. It almost seems as though he's got a pathway of what he wants to make sure of, so that if he ever gets fired, it won't be out of the lack of trying, or at least due diligence, and actually making sure that this is actually a fit. What I bring to the team, what the team can do for me, means that the goals can be achievable.
Yeah, seems to have the utmost integrity, does Norman Mapeza. I mean, we remember in his playing days, he passed up an opportunity to play for West Ham United, and at the time a big club in England, because he felt that perhaps he could make a step up. And at that stage, Arsenal was touted as being interested. It didn't work out, but a man who's not afraid to walk away from what others perceive as a big opportunity. TTM, Chris, are going into the top 8 competition, the MTN 8. Because of where Bidvest Wits finished in the last league campaign. They don't have a coach at this stage because Mapeza has walked away from the job. They themselves are in all kinds of turmoil.
They're in all kinds of turmoil, just from obviously what we've seen so far, where they've bought this franchise, but they haven't managed to retain the talent that they need. That was, first of all, major blunder on their part. If you're going to be participating in tournaments like the MTN 8, you're going to need good pieces. You're going to need a good coach. At the moment, there's a bit of I'm not going to call it a round robin, but there's some movement in terms of coaches in the South African Premier League. We've had a couple of coaches. No, in fact, one coach has left to go to North Africa, and in his place, they've actually had to put 2 people there. That's 2 coaches that have already been sucked up by Mamelodi Sundowns. Then you take a look at teams like Kaizer Chiefs, also scrambling to find these final pieces in terms of coaching staff. So it's not going to be easy for them to find coaching staff, first of all, this far along in the game. But yeah, it's going to be tricky for them. They're going to need a hope, a prayer, and just some excellent footballing from their players if they're going to be participating and be competitive.
They start with a tough date against SuperSport United, of course, which is coached by Caetano Tembo in the MTN 8. So we wish them well, but in truth, we're not hopeful because of the turmoil that they, in the manner that they've started. Sundown sucking up 3 coaches in one. Steve Kompela, of course, has gone there as well, and those are 3 coaches who could easily sit as head coaches. Norman Mapeza now, Sims, in your view, where does he move next? Is he under pressure to get a job, or can he sit back and just wait for the offers to come? Because possibly they will come.
I think they will come, and I think the old football adage is you're only as good as your last game. So in his case, you're only as good as your last campaign. I think that sort of level of teams, the ones that are in the mid-table, wanting to kick on to maybe be more consistent in the top half, will be the ones that will probably excite him. But the fact that, like we've said, he's actually walking away from situations means that he's under no real pressure. And what we know for a fact is, because of the delayed onset of the season, we are quite close to the halfway point where a lot of heads usually roll. So he just needs to bide his time for about 2 or so more months. The ones that would have been roped in, if it starts to go disastrously, and then there's another potential relegation battle, who are they likely to go and come? They will go up on Norman. And hopefully he doesn't then start to kind of typecast himself as a Sam Allardyce of sorts that's only allowed to get jobs that are staving off relegation. I'm really hoping that eventually a team does come that kind of fits into what he's trying to do. Because for me, I think dominating Africa at the very least is what he's also hoping to do.
Certainly. And is it a little bit short-sighted of us, Chris, to be thinking about South Africa only, because we know the Tanzanian league is coming up in leaps and bounds. We've got 3 big teams there: Azam, Simba, Yanga, that's Young Africans. We go across to Zambia. Zambia has come up in leaps and bounds. They are getting the best and the brightest coming out of Africa as well. So perhaps another destination apart from South Africa could be an option for Mapeza.
Definitely. I think because he was in Zim coaching with FC Platinum for some time, we kind of looked at him as a Zimbabwean coach. He goes across to Chippa, he does what he does, and we remember once again that he's not just a good Zimbabwean coach. Norman Mapeza is an excellent coach, just in terms of continentally, he's right up there with them. So Tanzania, definitely a good option for him. If you take a look at the way that they've actually structured everything in terms of getting external players and coaching staff, it's a very attractive destination for players and for coaching staff. And this is at government level that they've managed to structure this for all of their leagues. So it's definitely an option for him. Zambia as well, but I think what we've seen so far is that he's not a desperate coach, and he's going to only take the best offers that come along in the best conditions.
I long for the day when Norman Mapeza can take command and charge of the Zimbabwe Warriors once again, and that's with full respect to Logarasic, but I believe that Norman Mapeza showed us some of the most entertaining and exciting football of this generation, certainly, of Warriors, and it is sad that he couldn't take that job for a longer period, because we certainly would have been able to dream and to believe. We'll see where he goes next. Wherever he goes, he's going to bring entertainment, he's going to bring excitement.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Time for your local sports roundup. We'll start off in cricket, where Zimbabwe cricket convener of selectors David Mutendera is confident in the squad that was selected for the upcoming limited over series tour of Pakistan. The 20-man squad began camp yesterday in Harare. They're set to intensify their preparations this week under a biosecure bubble ahead of departure next Monday. Fast bowler Blessing Zarabani blasted his way into the final squad at the 11th hour after he was given the green light to resume his international career. His return is seen as a massive boost, especially with the experienced frontline seamer Kyle Jarvis ruled out of the Pakistan tour due to a stress fracture injury. Some news out of rugby. The Zimbabwe Rugby Union is now waiting on their medical committee to come up with health protocols at match venues before the sport can return during this coronavirus pandemic. This comes as ZRU was granted permission to resume training by the Sports and Recreation Commission. Since March, the government banned all sporting events as a precautionary measure against the spread of COVID-19. However, in recent weeks, a number of sporting disciplines have been allowed to resume their activities while observing strict social distancing protocols. We'll finish off with swimming, where local swimmers will this year have a different experience for the National Sprint Gala that is usually held in Mutare. It will be held at 3 different venues across the country. The national event is scheduled to take place this coming weekend in Mutare, Harare and Bulawayo. The move to have the National Sprint Gala at 3 different venues has been necessitated by the prevailing COVID-19 situation. The swimming season got underway in earnest, with Harare hosting the first gala last month. Bulawayo had theirs on Sunday.
Hi, this is Mike Madura, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula One Report. The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
All right, now congratulations to Lewis Hamilton on his 91st career victory in Formula One. What an incredible achievement. Today, we are talking about the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. Whatever your destination, it will get you there, combining reliability, comfort, and safety for the ultimate terrain-conquering performance. At its core, the Pajero Sport has a 2.4-litre Myvec turbo diesel engine paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, giving you the optimum balance for engine power, fuel economy, and interior quietness. Think of any terrain and you'll know that true to its heritage, the Pajero Sport can go there. It features hill descent control, Super Select 2, 4-wheel drive system, and selectable off-road modes to maximize traction on unsealed surfaces, gravel, mud, sand, and rock.
The Pajero Sport's roomy interior gives your family members generous head and leg room, and the third row of seats enables it to comfortably accommodate 7 passengers. That's the whole family in one car. Combining style, luxury, cutting-edge technology, and genuine 4-wheel drive performance, Mitsubishi's sleek Pajero Sport fuses elegance, space, and safety for urban driving with agility for off-road excitement. All of this for an unbeatable price of $59,000. And this offers only valid while stocks last, so don't miss out. Stay tuned for more.
Z.
All right, now into our Formula One report proper. Now, Lewis Hamilton is unsure why older drivers have a bee in their bonnet over his success and standing among Formula One's greats. Hamilton scored the 91st victory of his Formula One career in Sunday's Eiffel Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, drawing him level with Michael Schumacher's win record. The result came just days after 3-time world champion Sir Jackie Stewart said that it was hard to justify how Hamilton stacked up against some of Formula One's other greats. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton, who clocked his 91st race wins and matching one of the all-time greats of Formula One racing, Michael Schumacher. Here's Lewis.
You know, when you grow up watching someone and you generally idolize them, you know, really just in terms of the quality of the driver they are, but what they're able to continuously do year on year and race on race and week on week with their team. I remember playing Michael on it was a game called Grand Prix 2, I think it was, and I think there was a time I was playing you at one stage too. But you know, just seeing his dominance for so long, I don't think anyone, and especially me, didn't imagine that I'd be anywhere near Michael in terms of records. So it's an incredible honor.
Z.
Now, obviously, it's a pretty surreal moment for Lewis Hamilton, but there's a bit of a fly in the ointment with Sir Jackie Stewart making those comments, Sims, because in truth, surely what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Racing has transformed over the years, but doesn't make Hamilton any less than your Fangios, your Ayrton Sennas, your Alain Prost. He's right up there with them.
I think he's right up there with them, but in trying to find out whether this is a bit more of the clickbait element, whether this was just a headline or blown out of proportion, I've tried to look back at it and think, when you try and compare across generations, it's always going to be difficult. So perhaps that's where Sir Jackie was coming from. And in that regard, I'm fully in agreement, because it's difficult to say, with the way Formula One was structured back then, with the limited opportunities of, not even opportunities to kill yourself, because it was almost like a dead sport. Limited safety measures and all of those things. You kind of then look at the present safety measures that will kind of help a driver in a vehicle trying to push the limits. So in those scenarios, yes. In terms of statistically speaking, he's definitely right up there. And when I say statistically speaking, it's a borrowed phrase even from Nico Rosberg after the race and after him matching Michael Schumacher. He said statistically speaking, I thought this is an interesting one because it means then people are always going to have, like what Lewis is now alluding to, a bee in the bonnet. Because first he needs to outdo people statistically, then win over the hearts of people. And I think when we just compare him, let's say with Michael Schumacher. Schumacher, even when he was blitzing everybody, wasn't also the most favorable of people. He had a sort of cocky attitude and the dominance was there with Ferrari and all of that. I think what has kind of helped the Schumacher brand, unfortunately, is the accident.
Sims, is it not just racing? Because listen, if we put the Chris, if
guys, all sport evolves, all of it. Whether we're talking basketball, whether it's Formula One, whether it's football, all of it evolves. What then becomes different is the lens in which you're viewing it. And if you look at a man like Sir Jackie Stewart, the lens in which he's viewing the situation is very different from someone a couple of generations down the line who's looking at Lewis Hamilton from the lens of now. It's very different. He would have looked at Michael Schumacher and said, okay, you know what, this guy is a brilliant racer. Why? Because we look at things from our own personal perspective. And in this scenario, I fear it's just an age of nostalgia. This is ageism. That's exactly what this is. All sport evolves. If someone gets 6 NBA rings, they have 6 NBA rings. If someone has 91 Formula One victories, they have 91 Formula One victories. The cars have evolved. The drivers have had to evolve as well and be able to have a different skill set. And that's exactly what the scenario is. And I'm a little bit upset about these comments from him because you know what? You're almost taking away from someone's glory, and meanwhile, the man deserves this. It's just a different generation.
It's literally, Sims, it's a halcyon moment for Sir Jackie Stewart. You know, he's going back, back in my day, and your day is always different to today.
Exactly.
And in truth, everyone needs to look at it in that shape and in that form that Sir Jackie Stewart raced at a different time. Right now, Hamilton is the best of the best, regardless of the conditions.
True. He's the best of the best, and I'll still drop it in statistically. And I'll tell you what, I completely agree with the camp that and the angles that Chris has brought in, and that's exactly why. If this then becomes a consistent narrative, then I'll be as slightly upset as Chris is, maybe a bit more. Because for now, we are trying to lump Sir Jackie Stewart as though he's the voice that kind of dictates what everybody else is feeling. Definitely on this panel, we're giving the kudos to Lewis for all that he's done. I think even on this panel, there are a bit of biases that come into it because of different issues. However, when you look at just the body of work, there's absolutely nothing that he's done that any other racing great has done. And right now, the 5 that Michael Schumacher had with Ferrari is already matched. If he wins his 6th, then he takes up. So I think there's an element of not wanting to erase your heroes that kind of then wants you to detract from someone's things. But trust me, when this boy stops racing and hangs up that controller, whatever it's called, the steering wheel, when you then look at it from a lens, to borrow Chris's phrase as well, that is just neutral, we will definitely have to put him up there.
He is already up there. Lewis Hamilton already leading the driver standings. And of course, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Lewis' achievements? Let us know on @ZFM Sport. And you heard our personal handles. What cannot be disputed is that he's currently leading the driver standings with 230 points. Second place, Valtteri Bottas, his teammate at Mercedes, on 161 points. Max Verstappen is in third with 147 points. Danny Ricciardo of Renault is now in fourth with 78 points. Sergio Perez of Racing Point is 68 points. The constructors' standings are pretty obvious. It's Mercedes, Red Bull, Racing Point, McLaren, and Renault in that order. Next, we're off to Portugal, and that's next Sunday.
Z.
More news from the Mitsubishi brand at Zimoco, and this one is my absolute favorite. It's the all-new Mitsubishi Triton double cab. It's the most reliable and rugged double cab on the market. Whether you need the practicality of a dedicated workhorse or the luxury and versatility of an SUV, the Triton's combination of its super responsive engine and silky transmission handles anything thrown at it. For almost 40 years, Mitsubishi pickups have helped Zimbabweans get the hard jobs done. Engineered to deliver power, performance, safety, towing, and the latest technology, this is one tough pickup that nothing can frighten. It features a 2.4-litre DO8C Myvex 16-valve common rail intercooled diesel engine with automatic or manual transmission, generating peak power of 133 kilowatts at 3,500 RPM and an impressive torque of 430 Newton meters at 2,500 RPM across both manual and auto transmissions.
Now onto the new Mitsubishi Triton. It's the ultimate double cab with 18-inch alloy wheels, LED daytime running lights, optional full-time four-wheel drive, hill descent control, ABS braking system, electronic brake force distribution, rear differential lock, hill start assist, a reverse parking camera, and infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. All of these amazing features for an unbeatable price. All Mitsubishi products bought through Zimoco have 3 years or 100,000 kilometers warranty, as well as a first free service at 10,000 Ks. Please visit our showroom in Sam Levy's Village, Borrowdale, to test drive these awesome vehicles for yourself. We also invite you to join us for a refreshing complimentary summer beverage every Saturday morning this October to view our range of vehicles and test drive those on offer. We look forward to welcoming you this Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and will run through to 1 p.m.
The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, I'm Trevor Nyakani, the Blue Bulls and Springbok prop, and now you're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Only DSTV brings you the very best football action. Catch all the action from the most popular league in the world, the English Premier League, with some of the world's biggest stars in Sadio Mane, Harry Kane, Sergio Aguero, and Virgil van Dijk. Catch all the action on the brand new SuperSport Premier League channel on channel 223. We have the world's best football, only on DSTV.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Around the World in 60 is proudly brought to you by DSTV. We started in Australia, where legendary former Wallabies wing David Campese has taken a swipe at an arrogant New Zealand rugby and believes the All Blacks aura is gone. The NZR's decision to effectively break away from Super Rugby and only offer Rugby Australia 2 or 3 spots in a new competition have been criticised by Campese. He said, "The NZR came out and have been so arrogant about Super Rugby, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, guys, you're going to fall on your sword very soon. We wait to find out." In news from Serbia, though, Novak Djokovic says he still has a huge desire and hunger to succeed as he continues to chase Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal at the peak of men's tennis. Nadal's victory at Roland Garros on Sunday gave him a 13th French Open title and a 20th Grand Slam crown overall, drawing him level with Federer at the top of the all-time men's list. Djokovic is now 3 adrift of both, with Nadal an inevitable favorite for the French Open next summer, once again facing an uphill struggle to finish his career at the top of the pile. And in the United Arab Emirates, where we'll touch down, skipper Virat Kohli praised AB de Villiers' superhuman effort on a sluggish pitch after the South African great hit a match-winning 73 for Royal Challengers Bangalore in the Indian Premier League. Bangalore thrashed Kolkata Knight Riders by 82 runs in Sharjah as de Villiers stood tall with his 33-ball blitz and an unbeaten century stand with Kohli, who made 33. Bangalore posted 194 for 2, a total their bowlers defended by keeping down Kolkata to 112 for 9 in 20 overs.
Hi, my name is Rudoni Shamba, Mytoria's super striker. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. Horsepower unmatched. Torque to beat the best. Speed unrivaled. Sleek and easy on the eye. Let's get behind the wheel of football engineered to perfection. The Bundesliga, made in Germany.
In an international window, we always take a look at what's happening in Europe and around the world. And today we're camping out in the Nations League. And Germany hosts Switzerland tonight amid sharp criticism of the national team's head coach, Joachim Löw. Yogi Löw, who is still struggling to shake off the aftermath of their 2018 World Cup debacle. By their own standards, their very high standards, Germany have made a low-key start in the Nations League with 2 draws against Spain and Switzerland and a narrow win over Ukraine before facing the Swiss in Cologne. And in truth, Yogi Löw, for some time, Sims, it's been looking a little bit stale. You've still got the class, you've still got the quality of player out there, but Germany just aren't clicking into gear, are they?
No, and I think for me, it's basically he's a victim not only of his own success, but of the previous successes of the nation that he's a part of. Any other nation would have probably looked at that debacle in 2018 where they failed to progress even from their own World Cup group and fired him. But because he was the previous World Cup champion, I think that kind of bought him a lot of time. What may have also counted in his favor, even if people were scratching their heads, was the fact that just prior to that World Cup, when he took pretty much diluted group of youngsters to the Confederations Cup and showed the world a glimpse of what the future could look like under a rebranded sort of mineshaft. That's what people probably thought was going to happen, because he then went, pretty much took out a lot of the senior heads, and people thought now the likes of Kai Havertz and all of those are now going to come into their own. Unfortunately, the time that it has taken, it's really not working as quickly as we thought it would. A different coach would have been given the benefit of the doubt in terms of there hasn't been much continuity, but he's had continuity of close to 8 years. So what is it that is making him struggle so much? What might help him maybe is if this tournament comes sooner rather than later and he actually wins a trophy. If not, I think this could be just the beginning of the end for him.
Do administrators see what fans see and what possibly us as pundits see? Because in truth, you can actually see that it's not working out. Yes, he's got a different crop of players. Some of them mentioned by Sims, the likes of Kai Havertz, young player, loves to play on the front foot, running football. Timo Werner, exactly the same. And then you think to yourself, he's got 2 of supposedly the best players in Europe at the moment. The best goalkeeper, Manuel Neuer, he was voted a couple of weeks ago by UEFA as being the best goalkeeper in Europe. And then he's got the best defensive player in Europe as well, in Joshua Kimmich. So why is Germany not dominating a group that in truth isn't that hard? You've got Spain. Yes, Spain should be challenging. Switzerland and Ukraine. You should, at the very minimum, be the second best team in this group.
Definitely. To answer your first question, do administrators see things the way we do? I think not. And I think you also have to understand that there's other things at play. Take, for example, the fact that his contract is until 2022. So this man has made a promise to rebuild the side. He's talking about getting back to where the team was previously. He's got some fantastic players. So I think another thing that comes into play is, okay, the amount of time we're going to give him. And I think there is a set amount of time that he has to prove that, they can stop. If you take a look at previous matches, those lapses of concentration, conceding a number of goals, things like that. If he manages to get those things in order and to correct them, I think it lends him a bit more time, because he has promised to get the team back to where it was. So do they see things the way we do? I think they do, but I think administrators also have a responsibility not to act very quickly. And I think that's what the perspective is here, is there's a bit of a long-term thinking and giving him the chance to correct the side.
Chris there reprising the old rock song, "Time is on my side." Is time on his side? Because Sims, I'm looking here at A Belgium, that's a number one team in the world. They're out of the same confederation that is UEFA. You're looking at a young England that if they get it right on their day, they can harm and hurt anyone. You got a Dutch side that's on the up. You got 2022 on the horizon, which is the World Cup. Should they qualify, Germany, then you're also considering Argentina, Brazil, and all of a sudden, getting out of the last 16 becomes a real struggle for Germany. That's not good enough, surely.
It's not, because, and I'll take you back to your own phase. You said, should they qualify? When was the last time you ever said that about a German team? That kind of sums it up clearly in terms of where he's at. The only reason he was given a contract up until the end of 2022 is because usually contracts are done in those 4-year cycles from World Cup to World Cup. But what you do in between also determines whether or not you'll get to that World Cup. Germany is not the sort of union that is going to struggle to find a replacement. They've got lots of coaches, and I'm sure right now they've got not only just a short list, a long list of potential gaffers that can step into that role. He doesn't have that much time. It's not enough just to qualify. It's the manner in which you qualify. Because for the longest time, people have been accustomed to Germany qualifying maybe with 2 or 3 matches to spare. You cannot keep flirting with the potential of playoffs as a German coach. It's not justified. And some coaches will then look at it, and some union will say maybe the COVID era is what can be used in mitigation. But he's from Germany, the country that has had one of the best handles on this. So similar to New Zealand in rugby, you cannot use this as an excuse anymore because your country's had a handle on it. Yes, the dates have been there, but of all the other nations within Europe that have actually struggled and are still suffering, you were the first ones, even from a league perspective, to reintroduce football. You're the first ones to have fans back in there. He's got no leg really to stand on.
Would you sack him?
Would you sack him? Performance and results.
Would you sack him?
Right now, not yet, because I think sacking him now might destabilize and even put them back. But I think right now, because it's the Nations League, which is just a glorified things of friendlies. If he doesn't then kick on, then they pull the trigger and then say, look, you're not going to deliver. The Nations League, which was going to help you, it's now time to give somebody else a chance at a run in that is good enough for 2022.
Well, guys, let's talk very quickly about another manager who's on look, they've just turned up the temperature on the pressure cooker just ever so slightly. That's Bobby Martinez out at Belgium, of course. Now, Kevin De Bruyne, he's withdrawn from Belgium's squad for tomorrow's Nation League game where they're playing Iceland. And they say he's got an unspecified injury, and he was substituted in the second half during that 2-1 Nations League defeat by England at Wembley which took place on Sunday. And you got to think to yourself, he's a very important player to this Belgium side, but in truth, they've got the strength and depth to be able to do without him. Just that Bobby Martinez wants to bounce back from that English loss very quickly, doesn't he, Chris?
They definitely want to bounce back quickly from that English loss, especially because if you take a look at their first half, Belgium was very dominant in that first half. They owned England pretty much. They played them all across the field. And I think it was a bit embarrassing for them not to be able to walk away from a match that they played so well with. They walked away basically with a defeat. So I think he's going to want to bounce back very quickly. And it's unfortunate that one of the most important pieces are not going to be available for him in order for them to be able to seal this next one up pretty nicely.
Yeah, certainly. And that wraps up the international break of that game. And we'll see where everything stands after Wednesday's games in the Nations League and indeed international friendlies.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wanted!
Heading into South America now for your World Cup qualifying update. Argentina coach Lionel Scaloni has compared playing football in La Paz to drowning as he braces his team for the challenge posed by competing at altitude in tonight's clash with Bolivia. La Albiceleste will be hoping to build on their winning start to World Cup qualifying, having beaten Ecuador 1-0 on Friday. Now, Sims, these guys are going to be playing at 3,650 meters above sea levels. That makes La Paz the highest capital city on earth. That poses a significant challenge for even the most in-form athletes.
True, but you know what, to be fair, I get tired of this because I did geography like some years ago.
Tell us
and
the year.
guess what? And guess what? Back then, it was still 3,650 meters above sea level. So in those years, and even since then, it hasn't changed. So how is it that in 2020, we're still talking about this as though it's something that is insurmountable? For me, I think it's a very soft sort of excuse. What I would like to see is if Bolivia, based on the draw, happens to be a deciding match for the team like Brazil or Argentina to qualify for the World Cup, whether such a staple would come out. I think most teams have realized that they can kind of drop something, and you will probably even see it in terms of the team selection. They'll probably blood in a few new players just so that they have that experience, but try and see which of the other teams they can get their points up against. So for me, the whole it's thin, it's drowning, it's always been like that. It's always going to be like that. And I'll give an example of like long distance running. People have said that about Kenya. And what have they done? They've started to take their athletes to go and train in Kenya. So you can't tell me that it's something that's insurmountable. It's just because they play Bolivia when it really doesn't matter.
I think that the issue comes in whereby Bolivia has become almost a kingmaker in that South American qualifying. And Bolivia has begun to realize it as well because, I mean, you look at their decision now, they've said that they're going to focus and concentrate on their home games. They're going to chalk off all the away games and see what they can get in La Paz. And it's because of the altitude issue. Guys, it's tough out there. Yes, it hasn't changed since, but let's be honest. This is like the personification of the Black Lives Matter movement. You get to La Paz and you just can't breathe. It's
you did not.
No, Barry. No. So in truth, it's a real struggle. And I would say, get your points everywhere else. Make sure that your other away games give you enough points for you to, but as for La Paz, just chalk it off and walk away.
Do you know where my issue with that also is? I think it also shows just how disrespectful people are to Bolivia. If Bolivia suddenly gets like a crop of a golden generation that can now go away and win some matches or even just draw, I bet you they'll start to look at that Bolivia match and start to see in a different light. You've said they're kingmakers, but I still don't remember many a match that has had people having to go to La Paz as a do or die. It's usually your Ecuadors that are now having to qualify or maybe to get to the playoffs. They have to kind of go and play. But by then, Brazil and Argentina are already sorted and they've already kind of written this one off. Let them have a bit of a blip and play that as the last qualifier. I promise you, Lionel Messi will be in Kenya trying to train for that.
So just quickly in terms of how you prepare for a match like this, Barry, you play a bit of football every now and again and you dabble in football administration. How would you prepare for a match like this going into a place where you know it's going to be pretty difficult for your players?
Go to altitude early, make sure that you get the minutes in at altitude, but you have to do it and have to have done it some time before that. The problem is that qualifying happens so quickly. You've got 10 days. You a quick turnaround, you play 2 games in 10 days. It's such a tough thing to qualify to prepare for, but the only way is to go into the conditions as early as you can, acclimatize and try and play.
The beating drum. The roaring fans. Take a ride on the wild side with the Africa Report on ZiFM Sport.
Well, let's wrap it up on the continent, and the big news in South Africa is that Steve Komphela has joined the coaching by committee that's happening at Mamelodi Sundowns. You'll recall that they appointed co-coaches Mangoba Mwiti and Rulani Mokwena, and now they've appointed Steve Komphela as an assistant to those 2 coaches. Sims, these coaches can coach as head coaches anywhere in the world. Anyway, in South Africa, not in the world.
well, I think Steve Komphela might actually be hard-pressed to actually prove to you that he would be best suited to anywhere in the world, philosophically speaking. But that being said, I think this to me almost solidifies my thinking that when Pizzo left, it doesn't seem as though there was a clear enough plan. Almost like they were taken by surprise by his departure. Because first and foremost, it's easy to say, okay, for the sake of continuity, let's have the guys that were in place. But the fact of the matter is, as much as you've mentioned that these guys could be head coaches anywhere else, they are not coaching any other team. They're coaching for the past decade South Africa's best team, and also for the past decade one of Africa's best teams. And none of those coaches would ever get the job otherwise. So I think this is now trying to say that for one pizza, the going rate is 3 head coaches. And hopefully in the meantime, when COVID then opens up the borders, then we really go and bring in the coach that we really think can take us as far as we need to go in Africa.
Yeah, and is this a sign that Patrice Motsepe, the president of Mamelodi Sundowns, in quoting Zimbabwean parlance, Chris, apererwa?
I think that would be it. You don't make moves like this when you have options. When you clearly have very defined options, you don't appoint joint head coaches and a coach who's not an assistant coach, but he's not the head coach, but he's the coach of the first team. And there's no and there's no confusion. I think at the moment they're just trying to plug a hole. They realize that the season is about to start. They need to kick on. They need someone to do the job and just do it decently enough until they, like Sim said, they can get the option that they truly want. I think they were definitely taken by surprise by that departure. I think there had been quite a bit of friction. Pizzo was very antsy in his it was supposed to be a celebratory post-match address. And all he did was talk about the fact that someone in the background was bashing him, and they had no faith in him, and you know how great his assistant coaches were. Never, not once was he actually celebrating the win. So I think there had been friction there, but I think they just thought, you know what, this guy's got a good deal. He's probably not going anywhere. It's too far down the line in terms of Africa for him to change, and he did.
What are the percentage of success, Sims, in your view? What are this experiment of having 3 almost head coaches in inverted commas?
So like we've said, this is Mamelodi Sundowns. So it's not enough to just win the PSL. It's not enough to just win a trophy. It's not enough to just win in Africa. The only way these 3 guys can better it is to win in Africa and retain the treble. So when you say what are the percentages of that happening? 5-0.
5-0. Chris, what are the percentage of success in your view?
I think I'm with Sims on this one.
5-0.
5-0. It's incredible.
Oh my goodness. Hey, nobody is confident that this might actually work anyway. We haven't got long to wait because the MTN 8 is kicking off pretty soon. But international friendlies tonight, Japan takes on the Côte d'Ivoire. Morocco will entertain DRC while Nigeria take on Tunisia. Mexico will entertain Algeria. Remember, Algeria will be taking on the Warriors on the 16th of next month. And then Senegal will be taking on Mauritania. That's all we got time for, guys. We got to go. We'll catch you tomorrow for Wacky Wednesday. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And Andy, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.